The huge alien ship floated in the darkness of space near Earth. It was bigger than any building humans had ever made. Inside the ship, Admiral Zektar sat in his command chair. He was tall and covered in green scales like a giant lizard. His yellow eyes looked at the humans sitting across from him. General Marcus Kane sat straight in his chair. His gray hair was cut short like a soldier. Next to him sat Ambassador Lisa Morgan. She wore a dark blue suit and watched the aliens carefully. Behind them stood Captain Ryan Brooks. He held a tablet and said nothing. Admiral Zektar smiled. His teeth were sharp and white. He felt very good about this meeting. For 6 months his forces had been winning every battle against the humans. They had taken over 47 human colonies. They had destroyed hundreds of human ships. Now Earth was alone. "Your people have fought well," Admiral Zektar said. His voice was deep and rough. "But you cannot win. We are too strong. We have too many ships." Around the big table sat other alien commanders. Commander Velix looked like a giant bug. His eyes were black and shiny. He clicked his mouth parts together when he was happy. Crystal Singer Thales glowed with soft blue light. She was made of living crystal and spoke with a voice like music. "We offer you a choice," Admiral Zektar continued. "Surrender now and your people will live. They will work for us, but they will live. Fight us and we will destroy your planet." General Kane looked tired. His face had lines from many years of war. He rubbed his forehead and sighed. "You have been very successful, Admiral. Our colonies are gone. Our fleets are scattered. Many of our people are dead." Admiral Zektar nodded. This was going exactly as he had planned. The humans were finally ready to give up. "Yes, we are the strongest force in this part of space. No one can stand against the coalition." The coalition was made up of 3 alien races. The Carathians, like Admiral Zektar, were the leaders. They were strong and smart about war. The Hydra, like Commander Velix, were good at building things and following orders. The Veltai, like Crystal Singer Thales, could travel through space faster than anyone else. Together, they had conquered many planets. They always won because they were organized and had better weapons. They thought humans would be easy to defeat. Ambassador Morgan spoke for the first time. "Admiral, before we discuss surrender, I want to make sure we understand each other. You have been attacking our colonies for 6 months, is that correct?" "Yes," Admiral Zektar said. He was getting impatient. "We took Kepler Colony first. Then New Geneva. Then the mining stations around Rigel. Your people fought, but they were too weak." "And in each battle, how many of our ships did you face?" Ambassador Morgan asked. Commander Velix clicked his mouth parts. "At Kepler, maybe 50 ships. At New Geneva, about 100. The mining stations had only 20 ships each." Crystal Singer Thales added, "Your ships were old and slow. Our weapons were much better. It was not really fair." General Kane leaned forward. "Tell me, Admiral, what kind of ships were they?" Admiral Zektar looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, were they military battleships? Were they fast attack ships? Were they carriers with fighter squadrons?" "They were—" Admiral Zektar stopped. He thought about the battles. "They were mostly cargo ships that had been given weapons. Some were passenger ships with missile pods attached. A few were police patrol boats." Captain Brooks finally spoke. "And the people flying these ships, were they trained military pilots?" Commander Velix answered no. Many were civilians, farmers, miners, shopkeepers. They fought bravely, but they did not know how to fight in space battles. The room became quiet. Admiral Zektar began to feel uncomfortable. Something was wrong, but he could not figure out what. "You seem confused about something," Admiral Zektar said to General Kane. "What is your point?" General Kane stood up slowly. He walked to the big window that showed space outside. "My point, Admiral, is that you seem to think you have been fighting our military." "Of course we have been fighting your military," Admiral Zektar said. "We have been at war." "No," General Kane said quietly. "You have been attacking our homes." The alien commanders looked at each other. They did not understand. Ambassador Morgan activated a screen that showed pictures from the captured colonies. There were homes, schools, parks, shopping centers. There were children playing and families having dinner. Kepler Colony had 2.3 million people, she said. Most of them were farmers and their families. New Geneva had 4.1 million people. They were teachers, doctors, shopkeepers, children. The mining stations around Rigel, Captain Brooks added, had families living on them. The miners brought their wives and children. There were schools and hospitals. Admiral Zektar's scales began to change color. They turned darker green. This was a sign that he was becoming afraid. "You are saying we attacked civilians?" he asked. "You are saying you did not know?" General Kane turned away from the window. "Every colony you took, every ship you destroyed, every person you killed, they were not soldiers. They were families trying to protect their homes." Crystal Singer. Thalès dimmed her glow. "Where are your real soldiers then?" General Kane smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "That, my dear Crystal Singer, is a very good question." Outside the window, space looked empty and peaceful. No ships could be seen anywhere. But Captain Brooks was quietly counting down numbers on his tablet. 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. Admiral Zektar stood up. His large body towered over the humans. "If you have a real military, where are they? Why did they not defend your colonies?" "Maybe," Ambassador Morgan said softly, "they were waiting for the right moment." "Waiting for what?" Commander Velix demanded. General Kane walked back to the table. He put his hands on the surface and looked directly at Admiral Zektar. "Waiting for you to show us who you really are. Waiting to see if you would choose to fight soldiers or if you would choose to kill families." The alien commanders were starting to understand that something was very wrong. They had won every battle, but the humans did not seem defeated. They seemed patient. "You chose to attack our homes," General Kane said. "You chose to kill our children. You chose to destroy our families." Captain Brooks looked at his tablet. 1 minute. "Now," General Kane continued, "you get to meet the people whose job it is to protect those homes." 30 seconds. Admiral Zektar looked out the window again. Space was still empty. "I see nothing." "Look closer," Ambassador Morgan said. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Space exploded with light. Space around the huge alien ship suddenly filled with human warships. They appeared from nowhere like magic. Some ships seemed to just pop into view. Others came out of hiding behind rocks and space debris. More ships dropped out of hyperspace. With bright flashes of light, Admiral Zektar stumbled backward from the window. His yellow eyes were wide with shock. His scales turned almost black with fear. "This is impossible," he whispered. The human ships were everywhere. Big ones, small ones, ships shaped like arrows, ships as round as planets. They moved in perfect order like they had practiced this dance 1,000 times. Not one ship was out of place. Commander Velix made scared clicking sounds with his mouth. His black bug eyes could not count how many ships he was seeing. "How many are there?" he asked in a shaky voice. Captain Brooks looked at his tablet and smiled. "This is just Task Force Alpha," he said calmly. "Just one task force?" Crystal Singer. Thalès flickered with worried light. "How many task forces do you have?" "Enough," General Kane said simply. Admiral Zektar pressed his clawed hands against the window. The human ships stretched as far as he could see. Some were bigger than his own flagship. The biggest ones were like floating cities with weapons that could destroy moons. "Our sensors showed nothing," Admiral Zektar said. "How did you hide so many ships?" Ambassador Morgan stood up and walked to a control panel. "The same way we hid everything else from you. We showed you exactly what we wanted you to see." She pressed some buttons and a new screen appeared. It showed the battles from the past 6 months. But now the humans could see what really happened. "When you attacked Kepler Colony," Ambassador Morgan said, "our sensors were watching from ships you could not see. When you destroyed New Geneva, we recorded every weapon you used. When you took the mining stations, we learned how your shields work." General Kane pointed to the screen. Every battle you won taught us more about you. How fast your ships move, how strong your weapons are, how you talk to each other during fights. Captain Brooks added, we also learned about your character. We learned that you choose to attack places full of families instead of looking for our real military. Commander, Felix was breathing very fast. In his species, this meant he was terrified. You let us kill your people just to watch us? We tried to stop you without fighting, General Kane said. His voice was sad and angry at the same time. We sent messages asking you to stop. We offered to talk. We tried to make peace. But you kept attacking, Ambassador Morgan continued. You kept killing families. You kept destroying homes. So we decided to let you show us who you really are. Admiral Zektar turned away from the window. What do you want from us? We want you to understand something very important, General Kane said. He walked closer to the alien commander. There is a big difference between fighting soldiers and attacking families. Crystal Singer Thales dimmed her light until she was almost dark. We thought we were fighting your military. No, Captain Brooks said. You were fighting store owners who grabbed old hunting rifles. You were fighting school teachers who flew cargo ships with missiles taped to the sides. You were fighting grandparents who would not let you hurt their grandchildren. The truth hit the aliens like a physical blow. They had been so proud of their victories. They had felt so strong and smart. Now they realized they had been beating up children and old people. Where were your real soldiers during all this? Admiral Zektar asked. General Kane smiled, but his eyes were cold. They were getting ready. A voice came through the communication system. It was clear and strong, like the voice of someone born to give orders. General Kane, this is Admiral Hayes. Task Force Alpha is in position and ready. Thank you, Admiral, General Kane replied. What is the status of the other task forces? Task Force Beta is surrounding the enemy fleet at Sector 7. Task Force Gamma has secured the Rigel system. Task Forces Delta through Omega are standing by for orders. The alien commanders did quick math in their heads. If the humans had task forces from Alpha to Omega, that meant they had 24 separate fleets. Each task force looked bigger than anything the Coalition had ever built. 24 task forces? Commander Velix whispered. Each one bigger than your entire invasion fleet, Captain Brooks said with no emotion in his voice. Admiral Zektar sat down heavily in his chair. How is this possible? How did we not know? Because you were not looking for our military, Ambassador, Morgan explained. You were looking for easy targets. You wanted to conquer people who could not fight back. General Kane activated another screen. This one showed Coalition ships all across human space. Every single one was surrounded by human vessels. While you were busy attacking our colonies, our real fleets were moving into position. Your home worlds are also surrounded, Captain Brooks added. But do not worry. We are not attacking your families like you attacked ours. Crystal Singer Thales pulsed with confused light. You could have destroyed our planets? We could have, General Kane said. But we are not like you. We do not make war on children and families. The aliens looked at each other with growing shame. They began to understand the terrible mistake they had made. They had thought they were conquering a weak species. Instead, they had been attacking the homes and families of the strongest military force in the galaxy. What happens now? Admiral Zektar asked quietly. Now, General Kane said, you learn the difference between conquest and justice. Admiral, Hayes' voice came through the speakers again. General, we are receiving surrender signals from Coalition fleets in 17 systems. They seem to be giving up without a fight. Hold positions, Admiral, General Kane ordered. No one moves without my permission. He looked at each alien commander one by one. You came to our space thinking conquest would be easy. You attacked our weakest people first. You killed millions of civilians who were just trying to live their lives. Admiral Zektar's voice was barely a whisper. We did not know. You did not care to know, Ambassador Morgan corrected. You saw numbers on a screen and thought they were just targets to destroy. General Kane walked back to the window where thousands of human warships waited in perfect formation. Those numbers had names. They had families. They had dreams and hopes and people who loved them. The alien commanders sat in silence, finally understanding the weight of what they had done. They had not just lost a war. They had committed crimes against entire populations of innocent people. "So what are your terms?" Admiral Zektar finally asked. General Kane turned around. His face showed the cold anger of a man whose people had been murdered. "Terms? You think this is a negotiation?" The way he said it made all three alien commanders shrink back in fear. "This is not a negotiation," General Kane continued. "This is justice." The word justice hung in the air like a death sentence. Admiral Zektar felt his hearts beating faster. His species had two hearts, and both were pounding with fear. He had conquered dozens of worlds, but he had never felt this scared. "What kind of justice?" he asked quietly. General Kane did not answer right away. He pressed a button on the table and more screens appeared. These screens showed the coalition attacks in terrible detail. Burning homes, crying children, families running for their lives. "This is what your justice looked like," General Kane said. "This is what you did to our people." The first screen showed Kepler colony before the attack. It was beautiful. Green fields stretched to the horizon. Children played in parks while their parents watched and smiled. Schools were full of young people learning about science and art. Markets buzzed with families buying food and talking with friends. Then the screen changed. It showed the same place after Admiral Zektar's ships had finished. The green fields were black and burned. The schools were piles of broken stone. The parks were empty, except for pieces of destroyed homes blowing in the wind. 2.3 million people lived here, Ambassador Morgan said softly. Farmers, teachers, doctors, children. They grew food to feed other colonies. They wrote books and made music. They fell in love and had babies and watched sunsets. Commander Velix made a choking sound. In his species, this meant he was feeling sick. "We thought they were military targets." "Look closer," Captain Brooks said. He made the screen zoom in on the destroyed areas. "Do you see any military bases? Do you see weapons factories? Do you see soldier training grounds?" The aliens looked carefully. All they could see were homes, schools, hospitals, and farms. There was nothing military anywhere. Crystal Singer Thalys flickered with shame. "We destroyed a farming colony. We killed families and children for growing food." The next screen showed New Geneva. Before the attack, it had been even more beautiful than Kepler. Tall buildings reached into the sky like crystal trees. Flying cars moved between them like schools of fish. The streets were full of people from different planets living together in peace. After the attack, it looked like the surface of a dead moon. Nothing moved. Nothing lived. 4.1 million people had become dust and memory. "This was our cultural center," General Kane explained. "Artists came here from across human space. Musicians, writers, painters, dancers. They created beauty and shared it with the galaxy." Admiral Zektar's voice cracked when he spoke. "We destroyed an art colony?" "You destroyed everything," Ambassador Morgan said. "Every painting, every song, every story, every person who made them." The screens kept changing. Mining stations where families had lived and worked together. Research stations where scientists studied stars and planets to help everyone. Trade posts where different species met to exchange goods and ideas. All of them destroyed. All of the people dead. "We made a mistake," Commander Velix whispered. "No," General Kane said firmly. "A mistake is when you add numbers wrong or forget someone's name. This was a choice. You chose to attack the weakest targets first. You chose to kill families instead of looking for soldiers." Captain Brooks pulled up another screen. This one showed recordings from the Coalition's own ships during the battles. The aliens could hear their own voices celebrating their victories. "Listen to what you said," Captain Brooks ordered. Admiral Zektar's recorded voice came through the speakers. "Another easy victory. These humans are too weak to fight properly. Press the attack, show no mercy." Commander Velix's voice was next. "Their defenses are pathetic. Even our smallest ships can break through. This conquest will be finished. Quickly. Crystal Singer Thalas had to listen to herself saying, "Such a primitive species. They put families on their military stations, how foolish." Now they understood. They had known families were there. They had seen the children and grandparents and decided to attack anyway because it was easier than finding real soldiers. "You knew," General Kane said. "You all knew you were attacking civilians, and you did it because it was simple and safe." The three alien commanders could not look at each other. The shame was too heavy. "We can make up for this," Admiral Zektar said, desperately. "We can rebuild your colonies. We can bring your people back to life." "Bring them back to life?" Ambassador Morgan's voice was sharp with pain. "Can you bring back little Amy Chen, who was 6 years old and loved to draw pictures of flowers? Can you bring back Dr. Martinez, who spent 40 years helping sick people? Can you bring back the Johnson family who were having dinner when your bombs fell?" Each name hit like a physical blow. The aliens began to understand that every number in their victory reports had been a real person with a real life. "We have the names of everyone you killed," Captain Brooks said. "All 47,300,812 people. We know about their families, their jobs, their dreams, their fears." Crystal Singer Thalas's light became so dim she was almost invisible. 47 million people? 47 million civilians, General Kane corrected. Not one of them was a soldier. Not one of them had training to fight in space battles. They were just people trying to live their lives. Admiral Hayes's voice came through the communication system again. "General Kane, coalition reinforcement fleets are trying to reach their trapped forces." "Orders?" "Block them," General Kane said without hesitation. "No coalition ship moves anywhere without our permission." "Understood, General. Task Forces Echo and Foxtrot are moving to intercept." Admiral Zektar realized that even more human fleets were moving into action. "How many ships do you really have?" "Enough to make sure this never happens again," General Kane replied. He walked to the center of the room and looked at each alien commander. "You wanted to know where our real military was while you were killing our families. They were watching. They were learning. They were getting ready to make sure no one ever attacks our homes again." "What are you going to do to us?" Commander Velix asked. "What we should have done 6 months ago," Ambassador Morgan said. "We are going to teach you the difference between strength and cruelty." General Kane activated one final screen. This one showed human ships moving throughout Coalition space, but they were not attacking. Instead, they were protecting Coalition civilian areas from other threats. "While you were murdering our children," General Kane said, "we were protecting yours." The aliens stared in shock. Even while the Coalition was attacking human families, the humans had been defending Coalition families from pirates and raiders. "Why?" Crystal Singer Thalas whispered. "Because that is what civilized people do," General Kane answered. "We protect the innocent, even when they belong to our enemies." The truth of what they had done crashed over the alien commanders like a wave. They had attacked the families of the most powerful and most moral species in the galaxy. They had made the worst possible enemies out of the best possible friends. "Now," General Kane said, "you get to learn what real justice looks like." The silence in the room was broken by Admiral Hayes's voice coming through the speakers. "General Kane, we have a full count of Coalition forces. They have 143 ships total across all systems." Captain Brooks looked at his tablet and almost smiled. "Admiral, please tell them how many ships we have in Task Force Alpha alone." "Task Force Alpha has 167 ships, Captain." Admiral Zektar's legs gave out, and he fell back into his chair. One human. Task Force was bigger than his entire invasion fleet, and the humans had 24 task forces. "That means you have—" Commander Velix tried to do the math in his head but kept making mistakes because he was so scared. "About 4,000 ships," Ambassador Morgan said calmly. "Give or take, a few hundred." Crystal Singer Thalas went completely dark. In her species, this meant she was in shock. 4,000 ships. We thought humans were a small, weak species." "You thought wrong about many things," General Kane said. He pressed another button and new images appeared on the screens. These showed human shipyards, massive beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. The shipyards were like metal cities floating in space. Thousands of workers moved around building new ships. Giant machines put together pieces bigger than coalition battleships. The aliens could see that these places had been working for years, maybe decades. "How long have you been building this fleet?" Admiral Zektar asked. "We started building our real fleet 200 years ago," General Kane explained. "We knew that someday we might meet species like yours. Species that think conquest is easier than cooperation," Captain Brooks added. "Every human colony you attacked sent us information. The farming colonies told us about your weapons. The art colonies told us about your tactics. The mining stations told us about your weaknesses." "They died for nothing?" Commander Velix's voice was full of horror. "They died protecting the rest of humanity," Ambassador Morgan corrected. "Every person who died on those colonies saved 100 more people on Earth and our other worlds." The screens changed again. Now they showed the real human military in action. These were not farmers with old hunting rifles or teachers flying cargo ships. These were professional soldiers trained for space combat. The human Marines wore black armor that seemed to absorb light. Their weapons were sleek and deadly. Their ships moved with perfect coordination like they shared one mind. Even their smallest fighters looked more advanced than coalition battleships. "This is what a real military looks like," General Kane said. "These people have trained their whole lives to fight in space. They know every trick, every tactic, every way to win battles." Admiral Hayes's voice came through again. "General, Coalition Admiral Morthak is requesting permission to surrender his entire fleet. He says he does not want to fight against impossible odds." "Tell Admiral Morthak that surrender is not his choice to make," General Kane replied. "We will decide what happens to him and his ships." Admiral Zektar understood. The humans were not just defeating the Coalition, they were taking complete control of everything. "You are not accepting surrenders?" "We are not negotiating with war criminals," Captain Brooks said firmly. "You do not get to attack children for 6 months and then say sorry when you get caught." The screen showed more human fleets moving through space. Every coalition ship, every coalition base, every coalition patrol was being surrounded and captured. It was happening so fast and so smoothly that it looked like the humans had practiced this exact scenario. "We have been planning this for months," Ambassador Morgan admitted. "Every time you attacked one of our colonies, we moved more ships into position. Every time you celebrated another easy victory, we got closer to your homeworlds." Crystal Singer Thalas flickered weakly. "You could have stopped us at any time." "Yes," General Kane said sadly. "We could have stopped you after Kepler Colony. We could have stopped you after New Geneva. We could have stopped you after the mining stations." "Why did you not?" Admiral Zektar demanded. "Because we hoped you would stop on your own," General Kane explained. "We hoped that after the first attack you would realize you had made a mistake. We hoped you would see that you were killing innocent people and choose to stop." Captain Brooks pulled up recordings of human diplomatic messages. "We sent you 43 requests to stop fighting. We offered to meet and talk about peace. We offered to share technology and resources. We offered friendship." The recordings showed human diplomats speaking calmly and politely, asking the coalition to stop attacking civilian targets. The responses from coalition leaders were always the same: demands for complete surrender and threats of more violence. "Every message you ignored," Ambassador Morgan said. "Every peace offer you rejected. Every family you killed after we asked you to stop. It all went into our decision about what to do with you." Admiral Hayes reported again. "General Task Force, Gamma has secured all Coalition supply lines. Task Force Delta has surrounded their main shipyard. Coalition forces are completely cut off from support." "Excellent work, Admiral. Hold all positions." Commander Velix realized what this meant. "You have trapped us completely. We cannot fight. We cannot run. We cannot get help." "That was the idea," General Kane said. "We wanted to make sure you could not hurt anyone else while we decided your fate." The screen showed Coalition soldiers on their ships. Many were crying. Others were praying to their gods. Some were writing messages to their families back home. They all knew they had made terrible enemies out of the wrong people. "What happens to our families?" Crystal Singer Thalas asked quietly. "What happens to our children?" "Your families are safe," General Kane said. "We told you already. We do not make war on children and civilians like you do." Admiral Zektar looked confused. "But we attacked your families. Why do you not attack ours?" "Because that would make us like you," Ambassador Morgan explained. "And we are nothing like you." Captain Brooks showed them one more screen. It displayed the human rules of war. The list was long and detailed, but the most important rule was at the top: and never harm civilians, never attack families, always protect the innocent. "These are our laws," Captain Brooks said. "Every human soldier learns them. Every human ship follows them. We have never broken them, not once in 200 years. Even when someone attacks, your civilians," Commander Velix asked. "Especially then," General Kane replied. "When someone shows you who they really are by attacking innocent people, you show them who you really are by protecting innocent people." The alien commanders sat in stunned silence. They had expected the humans to be angry and cruel like they had been. Instead, the humans were angry and just. "So what is our punishment?" Admiral Zektar finally asked. General Kane walked to the window where thousands of human warships waited. Each ship represented the power to destroy planets. But that power was controlled by people who chose to protect rather than destroy. "Your punishment," General Kane said slowly, "is to learn the difference between justice and revenge." He turned back to face the three alien commanders. "Revenge would be destroying your home worlds like you destroyed our colonies. Justice is making sure you never hurt innocent people again." Admiral Hayes's voice filled the room one more time. "General Kane, all coalition forces are secured. We await your orders for the final phase." General Kane looked at each alien commander one last time. "The final phase begins now." General Kane stood straight and tall in the center of the room. The three alien commanders watched him with fear and confusion. They did not know what the final phase would bring, but they knew it would change everything. "Admiral Hayes, General," Kane spoke into his communicator. "Begin Operation New Dawn." "Yes, sir, General. All task forces are moving into final positions." Admiral Zektar gripped the arms of his chair. "What is Operation New Dawn?" "It is the end of the old galaxy," General Kane said simply, "and the beginning of a new one." The screens around the room lit up with images from across Coalition space. Human ships were not attacking or destroying anything. Instead, they were doing something the aliens had never seen before. They were helping. On the first screen, human medical ships were docking with Coalition vessels. Human doctors and nurses were going aboard to help wounded Coalition soldiers. They brought medicine and food and clean water. "We are helping your people," Ambassador Morgan explained. "Your soldiers have been in space for months. Many are sick or hungry. Some are hurt from accidents during the battles." Commander Velix watched in amazement as human medics carefully treated injured Hydra soldiers. "You are healing our warriors? But we are your enemies." "You were our enemies," Captain Brooks corrected. "Now you are something else. You are students who need to learn a better way to live." The second screen showed human engineers working on Coalition ships. They were fixing broken engines and damaged life support systems. They were making sure every Coalition vessel could safely return home. "Why are you repairing our ships?" Crystal Singer Thalas asked. "Because we are not going to abandon you in space to die," General Kane said. "That would be cruel. We are not cruel people." Admiral Zektar could not understand. "But we killed millions of your people. We destroyed your colonies. We attacked your families. Why do you help us?" General Kane walked over to the alien commander and looked down at him. "Because that is who we are. When someone is hurt, we help them. When someone is lost, we guide them. When someone makes terrible mistakes, we teach them to do better." The cow. Third screen showed something even more surprising. Human ships were protecting Coalition homeworlds from raiders and pirates. While the Coalition military had been away attacking human colonies, Criminal groups had moved in to steal and destroy coalition civilian areas. Your military left your people unprotected, Ambassador Morgan said. Pirates and slavers saw this as a chance to attack your families. We stopped them. You protected our families while we were attacking yours? Commander Velix's voice was barely a whisper. We protected everyone's families, Captain Brooks said. That is what civilized people do. Admiral Hayes's voice came through the speakers with a new report. General Kane, we have established communication with all coalition governments. They are ready to receive your terms. Thank you, Admiral. Patch me through to all coalition leaders. The main screen changed to show the faces of alien leaders from across coalition space. They all looked scared and confused. Some were crying. Others were angry but trying to hide it. General Kane addressed them all at once. Leaders of the coalition, I am General Marcus Kane of the Human Defense Force. Your military attacked our civilians for 6 months. They killed 47 million innocent people. This ends today. One of the alien leaders, a Carathian female with bright red scales, spoke up. What do you want from us, human? We want you to learn, General Kane said simply. We want you to understand why what you did was wrong. We want you to promise never to do it again. Another leader, a Hydra male with golden chitin, buzzed angrily. You cannot dictate terms to sovereign governments. We can and we will, Ambassador, Morgan replied calmly. You lost the right to sovereignty when you chose to murder children. Captain Brooks activated a new display showing the terms of surrender. They were surprisingly simple and fair. The coalition would give up all weapons of mass destruction. Their military would be reduced to defense forces only. They would pay to rebuild the colonies they destroyed. Most importantly, they would send representatives to learn human laws about protecting civilians. These terms are reasonable, Crystal Singer, Thelus said with surprise. We expected much worse. What did you expect? General Kane asked. We expected you to enslave us like we planned to enslave you, Admiral Zektar admitted. We expected you to take our worlds and kill our leaders. That is what you would have done, Ambassador Morgan said. But we are not you. The coalition. Leaders on the screen were reading the terms carefully. They whispered to advisors and argued among themselves. Finally, the red-scaled Carathian female spoke for all of them. These terms are acceptable, she said reluctantly. But how do we know you will not change them later? How do we know you will not demand more when we are helpless? General Kane smiled for the first time during the entire meeting. Because we are giving you something you never gave us. We are giving you a choice. What choice? Commander Velix asked. You can accept these terms and learn to be better, Captain, Brooks explained. Or you can reject them and we will find leaders who will accept them. The threat was clear but not cruel. The humans would not hurt coalition civilians, but they would remove leaders who refused to protect innocent people. We accept, the Carathian leader said quickly. The other coalition leaders nodded their agreement. Admiral Hayes reported the final status. General Kane, all coalition fleets have surrendered. All coalition governments have accepted terms. Operation New Dawn is complete. General Kane looked at the 3 alien commanders one last time. You came to our space thinking conquest was easy. You thought we were weak because we valued peace. You thought you could kill our families without consequences. He walked to the window where the massive human fleet still waited in perfect formation. Now you know the truth. We are not weak. We are not helpless. We are the strongest force in this part of the galaxy, and we use that strength to protect innocent people everywhere. Admiral Zektar stood up slowly. His scales had returned to their normal green color. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. Respect. What happens to us now? He asked. Now you go home, Ambassador Morgan said. You tell your people what happened here. You tell them that the humans could have destroyed everything you built, but chose mercy instead. You tell them, Captain Brooks added, that there is a better way to be strong. You can be strong by protecting people instead of hurting them. Crystal Singer Thalys pulsed with soft, sad light. We will remember this lesson. You will do, More than remember, General Kane said firmly. Every year on the anniversary of each colony you destroyed, you will join us in honoring the people who died. You will learn their names, their stories, their dreams. You will make sure, Ambassador Morgan continued, that no one in the coalition ever forgets the price of attacking innocent people. The meeting was over, the war was over, but something new was beginning. The coalition would return home changed, humbled, and wiser. They had learned that true strength came not from conquest but from protection. As the alien commanders prepared to leave, Admiral Zektar turned back one final time. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" General Kane asked. "For showing us what we could become," Admiral Zektar replied. "For showing us that there is a better way." The human fleet began to disperse, escorting coalition ships safely home. The galaxy would never be the same. Peace would be protected by those strong enough to enforce it, but wise enough to choose mercy. General Kane watched the stars and thought of the 47 million people who had died. Their sacrifice had not been in vain. It had taught the galaxy that some things were worth fighting for and some people were worth protecting. The age of conquest was over. The age of protection had begun.